Yep.
So a herd this size, and you brought them in here, how big of a paddock would you give them?
A herd that size, if I had good water, first thing I would do, because that's my shade, well, of course it's not that hot today, but if it was summer, it's really hot, I'd come off that tree line and split this paddock in two, and then I'd put a water point out in the middle of it, whether I had to plug into a snap coupler or whatever to get water out there. Then I would give them probably 25% of this in the morning, and I give them the other 25% of one side at night, and the next morning I give them another 25%, and the next evening I give them the other 25%. So there's 4 paddocks in here for a herd that size.
But you wouldn't back fence them so they could get back to the
Absolutely not.
Right.
Folks, you don't need to back fence as long as you're moving them. Now if you get lackadaisy and you don't move them for 3 to 4 days, absolutely they will go back and regraze what they've been on. But we're finding out when we move cows frequently enough, they don't go back. Now they might go back over and get them a little bit of shade, or maybe my water point's over there, they'll go get and get them a drink, but they're going to go back on the new. And the reason they go back to the new, it hasn't been fouled. It's fresh, smells good. Lots of diversity out there, lots of energy. Let's keep going.
So
let's keep walking.
If you were to divide this up into the 4 paddocks like you were saying, once you move them out of the first one into the second one, do you wouldn't necessarily need to close off the first one because it's fouled. They're not going to go back.
Close off the first one because you're moving them. You're moving them. They're not going to go back on that paddock. It's been walked on, stepped on, laid on, pooped on, peed on. They're going to be on the fresh one. It's only when you stay on a paddock up to 4 days. On the 4th day, they're going to go back and regraze the regrowth because it's tender. You can stay on this whole paddock for 4 days if it's one long strip and the only water was back here. And you started at your water, you started stripping them 4 days out. On the 4th day, they're going to regraze that because it's got tender stuff growing up on it. They're going to nail it. So on that 4th day, you need to be putting up a back fence or using a different water point.
How many total acreage would you have if you turned out 50? Would you say 50 to 70 head?
Yeah, if you had 70
How
head.
much total acreage would you be looking at in the south?
Well, it depends on the rainfall.
Moderate?
Normally we get good rainfall.
Okay,
Moderate?
so
Not West Texas?
well, you all answer that. Heck, I'm not down here. How many,
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Where are you?
how many acres does it take to run a cow for a year?
I count 2.
2 per
Boy, you're
acre?
pretty hot. But of course, you got a longer growing season than I do.
2 per
I'm
acre.
at
That's
3.
really good.
I'm at 3.
Well, no.
2 acres.
He's at 3.
2 acre per cow, not 2 head per acre.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're just talking
So the
140,
old,
150 acres.
way was
What's
2
that?
cow per acre.
So you're just talking 140, 150 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that varies per acre. Or
It
per,
does,
per
and it
pasture.
varies per year.
Yeah.
Now, when you all say you're in a 48 to 52 inch rainfall, in 2012 you weren't.
Right.
That's right.
And we weren't either. We only got 17. We didn't even get 17. I think we got 15 inches right here. That was it. So, what's normal? What's average? Folks, it's getting more extreme. So here's what I'm going to tell you, and I want you all to go home with this. It's probably the most important thing I'm going to say today. Everybody listening?
Say it.
Okay.
Ready to go.
Carbon, carbon, carbon. Trample, trample, trample. And I talked to some really smart people around the world, Ian included. I put Ian up at the very top. And he's like, Greg, we can't get enough carbon on the land. And until you start trampling this carbon on the land, you're not going to be able to grow a ton of grass or run a lot of cattle. It's carbon. I talked to Dr. Wendy Tahara. She's the leading mycorrhizal fungi biologist in the world, one of them. And I said, Wendy, how can I attract more mycorrhizal fungi onto my farm? You know what her reply was?
Carbon.
Carbon.
Fungi love carbon.
Yes, carbon. Get it trampled on the ground. So don't be afraid to let the cattle trample it on the ground, because you're gonna have a good life ahead of you. Your cattle are gonna have a good life ahead of you. Okay.
If you had this pasture here, would you set up permanent hot wire paddocks or just go in?
Oh,
and use
no,
paddock?
no, 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 no.
You're away from that, right?
I would put in a hot wire paddock on here. I mean, I'd have my feeder wire. Like, you probably got that already in here, don't you, Fred?
We don't have it now, but we have.
got one
had it
across the
divided
back.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's hot. We divide this up with poly wire.
Yeah. Folks, 20 to 40 acre paddocks work really well with polywire. You start breaking them down. into 5-acre paddocks permanent, it will kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Don't do that. We've rolled up over probably close to 50,000 feet of wire in the last 7 years. This is high tensile. We took the paddocks out. And these are paddocks, when I first started, I didn't have any money. And I went to the NRCS and they said, Greg, you know, if you'll keep this program in for 10 years, we'll pay for 75% of it. I'm like, really? And they also said, if you do most of the work, you can come out on this pretty good. How many of y'all have done that? You come out pretty good. So I went and rented a trencher for a week. I went and bought me some fiberglass posts and some wire, and I did all the work. And I kept it in for 10 years, and I ripped them out. The wire around the perimeter is still there. My waters are still there, as far as my snap couplers and things, and my hydrants, but I took all the interior wires out. And here's why. In the springtime, when the grasses are growing fast, you need to move your cattle fast. And if you've got a paddock this size, if you split this up into, let's say, 8 5-acre paddocks. I don't know how many's in this bottom, Fred. How many's in here?
There's about 25 acres in this area.
So there's 5. There's 5 5-acre paddocks. What have you got when you got 5 5-acre paddocks?
2.5 days.
No, come on.
25 acres.
Man, I called for that one.
If you got hot wire paddocks, you got 5 problems.
5 days.
Am I right?
Yeah, 5 problems. What else?
5 days.
5 days. What else? Come on, you're almost there.
Recovery.
Huh?
Not enough recovery.
Not enough recovery. You got 5 gates.
Oh, yeah.
5 muddy gates.
5 muddy gates. They tear the bejeebers out of your farm everywhere you have a gate.
Oh, because they stand there.
They got to walk through it to get to the next paddock. You got 300 head going through a 20-foot gate. They're going to destroy it. And here's another thing with permanent paddocks. You develop cattle trails.
Yeah.
Permanent cattle trails. They're there and they almost grow back, and by God, you're back on them again. And those cows see that trail and there they go.
Yep.
And going down a hill, by God, you've got a gully. You've got a ravine on a big range.
So you always put the poly braid up in a different place, sort of?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
every time. And so in the springtime, on this paddock, when the grasses are going fast, if they had all this land accessible to them and the size cow herd they've got, they would need to get around here in 30 days. Well, they can't do it if they got 5-acre paddocks. You just can't do it. But now with polywire, heck, you can come in here and split this in 2. Boom, boom. Go up on the hill, boom, boom. You can go around here easily in 30 days.
Greg, you've addressed it spring, you move across this land really fast. Now we're getting at this time of the year.
Great point. So now we're into June, July.
In 5 minutes.
We're into June, July, and we want to slow down. Well, we don't have all these permanent paddocks in here, so now we can tighten them up, and we can make the paddock exactly the size we need it, because we don't have all this crap out here. Folks, get away from having temporary all this permanent paddock stuff. Go to temporary paddocks. You can run, and don't get married into laying it the same direction every time. So if I came into this paddock, one time I'd run my wire straight down the middle, and then I'd go like this, off the side. The next time I came into it, my first wire would be across like that, and I'd run them like this, and then on the other side, I'd run them the same direction the other way. Mix it up. Cattle get grazing lines. They get used to grazing in a certain direction, and they'll all go the same way every time they come into that paddock. Mix it up. You're spreading the manure and the urine. But get that darn hayfield into a paddock. I even took the lanes out of our farms. I used to have a lane that was the full length of Judy farm. It was about 20 feet wide. It was kind of handy. It hooked onto all of our paddocks. So if I had a cow in a paddock that I wanted to butcher or a steer, I could walk her and a buddy over to that lane and just walk them to the corral. Well, there's one problem with the lane. It doesn't get grazed very well. Now we'd turn cows in there and kind of let them chew on it, but when I took that lane out, my gosh, it turned into a paddock. And now it's got diversity in it, where before it just had one monoculture, it was fescue. Look underneath your fence, where there's no animal traffic. You're not gonna find much going on underneath that fence wire. We can go onto our lifetime lease farm, there's still broom sedge underneath that fence, where I put that fence in 20-some years ago. Where we run animals, there's not a semblance of broom sedge anywhere. It's gone. So it's animal hooves. It is a cloven hoof, folks. It's doing this. Every time it steps down, it's doing that. It's spreading open. And that's a massage. It's massaging the ground. And it's exposing little pieces of bare ground, breaking down carbon, and allowing for new plants to come up. It's a wonderful symbiosis.